Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Three Losers in a Church podcast, episode 19. Home is the title. Not to be confused with our retreat talk home that we just had, where we talked at the retreat. Let's talk about how this contrasts. We talked at the retreat about how we are homesick. I spoke about Revelation, my favorite book of the Bible, how eventually we'll be reunited with God. He'll be living in our presence and vice versa. The fall of man, all the good stuff. Whereas this episode is more about the church as a home.
Yeah.
And thoughts on that and whatnot. And I'll leave it to Tyler to kick us off for this one.
Thank you, Chris.
Anything for you.
Thanks, sweetie.
Sailor.
So, I definitely sound like a broken record because I've said this so many times.
I think you've also said that phrase. I sound like a broken record multiple times.
I do say that a lot. But anyways, back to the point I was making. I don't want to get in this big monologue because it's really... Did I say that
What's a
right?
monologue?
I'm saying
Monologue?
monologue. I said monologue.
Hello, my name's Montague. Montague versus Capulets. Monologue.
Monologue. I don't want to get in this big monologue.
Monologue.
Did I say it right?
Mono, like one?
Oh.
Like,
Oh!
as opposed to dialogue, two.
Whoa! I didn't actually I never put those pieces together. Anyways,
I thought you took Latin.
well, it doesn't mean I remember. It doesn't mean I got anything useful out of that. But anyways, so there's this thought that I always have, and I use First Baptist as an example all the time because it's a really easy example. But I always say, the church should be a home emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So I think the first two are kind of self-explanatory, but the third one gets kind of weird. How do you live in a church physically? Well, there's a couple different ways.
You could be right.
So you could be a lunatic like myself and hide from your problems there, or we have a homeless shelter that uses our facility, which is the example I normally use, right?
Also, Rick literally lives in
Also,
the church.
Rick literally lives there. So there's a couple ways you can physically live there, but I think there's a difference between living somewhere and calling a place home, right? So I can go to my parents' house and I'm gonna kick my shoes off and make a mess, right? Because that's my house. I'm doing what I want, which they usually get kind of crabby at me for. But anyways, that's home, right? And then this is my house where I live. I also call this home. I also kick my shoes off, and everyone gets mad at me here. It's a common thread. I go to FBC, I kick my shoes off, everyone gets mad at me there too. But anyways. So there's a level of physical home of comfort, and that's mostly what I want to get to. There's this spiritual and emotional level too. You should feel safe and you should feel loved, like you're supposed to in a home. But a lot of times we come from broken homes, and churches tend to be broken, so they're not always great examples of that. And then spiritually, of course, is where you're nurtured and kind of grow in Christ in this building. And so those are kind of, I don't want to say simple concepts because they're very complex in their own, but they're a little easier to grasp.
Right.
But I think this kind of weird physical living in a church usually leads to the other two. But also the other two are kind of needed for this one. As talking in circles is my thing. So you have to be comfortable and loved and spiritually nurtured to find a church like home, you're comfortable there, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I, being someone who's spent an obscene amount of hours in the physical building, have an inherent level of comfort there, right?
Right.
I basically joke around as if I rule the place.
Yeah.
And in some ways I kind of do, but that's not a good thing.
The term is church rat. Those who
Right,
practically
church
rat.
Yeah. There's very few of us, but
Though I think once I saw an actual rat there.
I don't think I've ever seen a mouse at First Baptist.
No.
Oh wait, I was there too.
Were you?
I don't know. Was that or somewhere? I saw someone was screaming about they saw. Never mind. Continue.
Anyways,
Tangent.
I saw a mouse at Enterprise one time, but an Enterprise rat. Which that sounds like a terrible life to lead. But anyway, so church rats, which may be better or worse, couldn't tell you. It's a very interesting lifestyle that I've chosen. Don't know why. It's kind of happened. But so I have kind of this level of comfort and homeness at the physical location, right? Which is for better, for worse at times. Sometimes I get a little too comfortable and say some things I probably shouldn't, and probably do some things I shouldn't. But I also am real, and I feel comfortable there. And then those two other things where emotionally I'm nurtured much better.
Yeah.
And spiritually it's exponentially better because I'm not on edge and I'm much more comfortable. So this kind of abstract idea of being comfortable in this building, and of course the church isn't just a building, it's a body of people, but feeds to this other idea of being comfortable with the church, right? The people of the church. So I don't think, well, clearly the second one's probably better than the first one, but they're very interesting. So comfort, home, church.
Yeah. I mean, I think at least one of us, maybe all of us, I don't know, but I've seen multiple people get really uncomfortable by, like, for example, the fact, like, sometimes one of us will sit on the altar.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't even know people do. Oh,
yeah. And, or I used to use the altar as my desk.
what's the the wooden table?
Yeah, it's not really.
Sorry, I'm not. Yeah,
I don't know if we really call it an altar at FBC, to be honest.
I've always heard altar table, but
Yeah. But, like, yeah, I used to use it as my desk.
I've eaten Chinese food off of that before.
I've eaten so much Chinese food.
Wait,
on
I didn't
it,
know
yeah.
people got uncomfortable by the idea.
Yeah,
of
I've had people ask me to not sit
Fascinating.
on it. And
Yeah. Whereas, yeah, like, to me, I don't even think twice about it because
Yeah.
I don't think I've spent as much time as you there, but I've spent a lot of time there too. And, like, to me, it's just like, this is a table.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of sitting in a pew or a chair, so I'll sit here. And, like,
it's a
Interesting.
comfortable height to sit. I don't know why.
right.
Wait, whoa. Because similar at my home church, we have an altar table that I've dragged around multiple times because I'm a PK. I have to move things because I'm a slave to the church. But I've stepped on it. I've jumped on it from like the sanctuary stage onto that. I've done all these things to it. But people have told me, hey, can you not do that because it's a holy table? I'm just like, I just rub my bum all over it. And similar, yeah, that's so, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have cared. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
And some of that, of course, is like, I don't know. I don't want to say old school because that sounds negative, but like,
I think it's association with the
Yeah.
thing, right? Because like for you, over time, it's you're just like that's a table, but then for someone else, they're like, oh, that's a holy table.
Right.
You throw them there, and like if they were to do the same thing that you did, stay there like maybe 24/7, then maybe
Yeah.
it too for them will be and like I think people need to stop putting so much quote holy emphasis on items. I don't know.
I agree.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, there's-
but
there's-
yeah.
And that's kind of, I know you want to say something, but there's like, it's a physical location.
Yeah.
The church is.
Yes.
You can have, and I'm not saying like we shouldn't have a cross because I have one of those. They're kind of, big, but like, and there should be some level of like awe and approaching God.
reverence,
right?
yeah.
Reverence. Thank you.
Yes.
But someone who doesn't like authority, would have made a terrible Pharisee. But like, to me, I'm like, oh, that sounds like legalism. Like, that sounds like, this is a sacred tablecloth.
Right.
This is like, well, I've like run across the top of the pews before.
Yeah.
Multiple
a lot of people
Pew racing
have,
is
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Well,
And it's fun, right?
right.
Ever
Until you slip and then you
Dude, you ever do
pew
pew
on your rib.
You ever
and-
heard of Pew of Death?
Pew of Death?
So the objective of Pew of Death, I've done this at my home church. I just can't, but I can't. I mean, I have attempted to do this. I'm not physically capable. You start off, what was it? On top of the pew, and your objective is to go around the pew without falling off.
Oh, I have done that
Yes.
before.
There's also the table of death where you start off on top of the table, then you have to traverse yourself around the table and get back on top.
It's a little easier with FBC pews because there's like a lip. So you
Yeah.
Right.
But
I've only successfully landed the pew jump from one side of the aisle, so on top of the top,
Yeah.
right? So like the narrow piece
Uh-huh.
where like your back goes. So
Yeah.
that piece. So I'm standing with both feet on top of that. I've only landed the jump across the aisle to the top of one pew once.
That is wow.
That's scary. I think
I
I
would
saw
not
Adam
want to
do
do that. Yeah. Also, Adam running across the pews
Terrifying.
is horrifying. It's something how like, oh, I don't like it.
So like all that behavior, as funny and whimsical as I think it is, probably some people don't think is
Yeah.
great. And some of that is, I think, a byproduct or a side effect of me spending so much time in there, where it's like, you know, you throw your coat on the couch, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's your home, so you don't care, right?
Yeah, I think it feeds into the home
Yeah.
idea. Because, like, you know, I would never walk into the Episcopal Church uptown and do that. Just like, you know, just like I could go home to my parents' house and just start raiding the fridge.
Right.
Where I'm not going to walk into like a stranger or like a casual acquaintance's house and be like, oh, what you got in here, pal? But like it's like you and your dad recently redid the entire bathroom at the church.
Right.
And like, you don't do that in the place that's not a home.
Right,
You
right,
know, like, again, I'm not going to redo the Episcopal Church's bathroom.
You
Maybe it doesn't
could.
need to be redone. I don't know.
If you did that, you think they'd let you run across the pews?
I would hope so. As like compensation.
Would they have to be watching though?
Oh, true.
Interesting. We could break in and run across the pews.
I think also another thing too, because like authority. It's I think it's. I mean, you are the church bad boy because you're against all authority. But
I never thought
the-
that would be a sentence used to describe me. I'm a self-proclaimed church bad boy.
Bad boy.
well, I don't like that, but the idea is just like
It's
also
fitting somehow.
no, because like what we were talking about the Episcopal Church. If we're like, what if would they be okay? Could we do it if they weren't watching? Like a pastor, people treat them with such reverence,
Yeah, yeah.
human beings. But then like for us, we're just like. Yeah, whatever, you old man. I mean, granted, my old man is a pastor, so I trash on him all the time. But like, it's just so fascinating because like we're like, ooh, like we can't joke or like. They're just humans at the end of the day. It's
Yeah.
just it's a piece. It's a chair at the end of the day. It's a table at the end of the day. But people have this hands off, like, whoa.
Yeah, and some of that I think is that, a side effect of being there so much and having such that home feeling. And I think that outweighs this quote side effect of we have very little reverence to the church as an organization.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
That's I think both.
Yeah.
Because that's how you answer all questions.
I agree for once, both, yes. Not for
and-
once, but
Yeah, we occasionally agree, but I think it has some beauty of like, oh, this is a building. This is that person is just a person. That person, that's just a chair. That's just a table. Right?
Yeah.
Like, because that's at the end of the day, that's true.
Yeah.
But also like, but there's some meaning to that table,
yeah.
and that person does deserve some respect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that chair, well, it's a chair, but like,
People have cried on that chair.
Right,
People have
yeah.
Yeah.
worshiped the Lord on that chair. Yes.
I think too is a one byproduct of it is like I thought about this a lot when I was redoing the choir closet for like 3 years, and it's like, well, if this is my home and I'm going to be comfortable here, like how am I going to be comfortable? And like I think it shaped the way that I thought about a home and like made me think of it in a more godly way. Like, okay, this is my home. I feel comfortable because of the people that have poured into me here, like the worship that's occurred here. Like maybe
You feel safe.
yeah. So like maybe a home is more like that, and like, you know, maybe what I'm doing should be a reflection of that here too. So
Interesting.
I think it's kind of also changed the idea of what a home is.
The title of that book, is it Welcome Home or You Are Home?
Make yourself at home.
Make yourself at home. I think it's funny you talk about that because I think now that we as people who are very comfortable in said building and we don't treat it with any reverence at all.
sometimes.
Sometimes. Like
Don't throw us completely.
Sorry,
out.
correct. Like I would never take Potato Jesus and yoss it across the room.
He's referring to a nativity scene where Jesus, I made a comment one time, looked like a potato. It does. Because it kind of looks like potato.
Well, the current one looks more like
Looks-
a. It looks more like
potato.
it looks more like a breakfast burrito.
It does look more like a...
Oh, Anywho, clearly I have issues. I am at home. I feel safe to say such things. Maybe you are uncomfortable hearing me saying that, but it's funny how Chris talks about like shaping how we look at a home. If we are those who are so comfortable, how can we? I mean, or can I argue that is it part of our responsibility to make other people feel at home when we are so comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think I feel like I have a weird thing when I invite people into my house. I go like, yeah, just throw your coat anywhere. I don't know, it don't matter, right?
Right.
Like, and like that's kind of how I was raised, and like it's kind of let's lay back and like joke
Mi
around.
casa, su casa? I don't really.
I mean, kind
Yeah.
of, but like also like I don't really have any strict rules, right?
Yeah, I'm not formal at home.
You also
Right.
don't lock the door.
Right, like I don't lock the door, right? Like
don't
but-
rob us.
don't-
well, I don't live here, but don't
You
rob them.
bragged, yeah.
don't rob me. Or Sam. But like
Please don't
also
rob
like
me.
the running joke is like just stop by, just say I'm in your house and like
Which
that's fine.
which Chris
is very adamant.
very
about.
adamant about it. I appreciate it. There have been moments where I walk and I'm like, "Hello, when'd you get here?"
But like so I sometimes have that approach when I'm like hanging out with people who don't really approach church like that. And I realize that sometimes it makes people feel very uncomfortable, and sometimes that's not the best approach. Where I'm just like, I don't care about this. Like,
Yeeter skeeter.
let me just throw this table around. Like, let me go razz all the pastors and be annoying. Like,
Oh, that's actually one of my favorite. When I like when you joke with pastors and then people are just like, oh, ha, ha,
It's so
ha, ha."
uncomfortable, yeah.
I thrive off of that. Oh
I
my
do have to admit,
goodness.
yeah, no, that's a good moment.
Anywho, yes, but you were saying.
Very interesting thing. I, for a long time, have called all the pastors by their first name, and still continue to do that. Some of it is annoying, but
You're a bad
Church
boy.
bad
I'm
boy.
a church bad boy. But also, like, some people find that really weird. Some people have asked me not to do that, and I'm like, first of all, I'm not gonna not do that. But like, some people find that very off-putting.
Yeah.
And like, so that's another example.
Interesting.
Of,
Yeah.
I sometimes don't think I have the right approach. But also, like, I think there's some people who have become more comfortable because I'm like, this pamphlet is dumb,
Right,
And like
yeah.
throwing it on the floor, right? But
Well, I've been trying to think that way with the student ministries office this year. Like, if I don't have a ton of work to do, I like to leave the door open
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people come in and have fun and hang out. But I think it's like this is a cool place where people can come in, hang out, but also it has a purpose.
yeah,
And, like, I think that's a lot of what we subconsciously do as the church is like, okay, we feel at home here, we're comfortable, we can have fun here, but this building is here to serve a purpose.
Yeah. I think you raised a very important life lesson for not only ministry but just in general. Read the environment. Right? Like
yeah.
you will meet people who are very like, you shouldn't be doing that. Other people are just like, okay, but then also kind of gauging like, oh, is this also beneficial? Like I've had, like sometimes like when you do something comfortably and then someone else copy you because you're like, oh, I can do that, but then it pisses off the wrong people and you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, like it was a byproduct of what I've done. I don't know,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like sometimes some people take it a bit too far.
Yeah, and I mean, I in that process, I was thinking like, oh, I would do something, and then if someone did that, I'd be like, why are you doing that? And then I'm
Yeah,
like,
I've certainly been guilty of that.
okay. And some of that is some of the downside of being like, I can walk in and be like, this is bad, but I wouldn't want someone else to walk in and be like, this is bad. Be like, oh, but like I care about that.
Yeah.
So like clearly, as everything in life, it has upsides and downsides. But I think to like appreciate this real level of home, because there is kind of those three aspects of emotional, spiritually, and physically, and they are intertwined pretty heavily.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, people will grow a lot emotionally and grow a lot spiritually. And some people literally grow physically, because they start as a baby and they get taller, but in the church. But like how comfortability, I think, is the word. And I'm not saying you should always be like, oh, I'm so relaxed at church, right? You should be challenged and you should be worked up and you should be angry at times.
Yeah.
But like
But even just being able to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
to
'cause-
express that too.
Yeah, because to me, like, home is where I've always been the most comfortable being emotional. And, like, because, I came, as you know, from a very healthy family background. So, like, I can go home and express anything and
Right.
feel totally comfortable doing it, which is what you'd like to think the church is doing.
Right. But also have some grace for the physical building, because it is rough at times.
Yeah.
Churches are aging.
Yes.
And people are bad. People are dumb. Like, we're broken people. I guess that's the correct way to say that. But
Right.
Yes,
instead of calling
yes.
people dumb, you should say
You're
that.
stupid.
should say that. But we're all broken
mean,
people.
I mean, God had much harsher words for the state we're in.
That's
so-
true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm just poking fun at people. Yeah. And so, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, I think it's really easy to focus on those two and kind of neglect feeling physically comfortable. But that's also important, and it helps fuel the other things.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of biased by saying this, but the only way I have felt physically comfortable, right, is spending time there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I mean there, I mean with the people and the actual place.
Yeah.
Because you can feel comfortable in a place and feel uncomfortable with the people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big time.
Do you really feel comfortable in a place if you're uncomfortable with people?
Right. Because, like,
Not
I love Friendlies until people walk into it.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
that's a little different. Those are customers. They're terrible.
That's fair.
That's a whole nother world.
Enterprise is great till we open the door.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use the word great.
Yeah. Like, okay.
It's palatable.
There's a fry
It's
there.
palatable.
Not an Enterprise.
I did
Not a
visit
big
that
one.
work. When I picked up the rental, I visited his workplace. I was like, oh,
It's very interesting in there.
Really?
it's kind of bare.
I'll have to visit.
Just pop in. Hey, I want to rent a car. I just want to say hi. But yeah, like, let loose.
Yeah.
Like, maybe don't sit on the altar table during Sunday morning, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that before, but
But like also all of that helps you be real and comfortable with God too. I
yeah,
think.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So sit on the altar table to be comfortable and loose with God.
Is that
I'm just twisting
is that
it
the lesson
horrendously.
here? Is that the moral?
Maybe within reason.
What if the
Somehow.
church building doesn't have an altar table? What's the next alternative?
I don't have a good answer.
Yeah,
I was thinking of one. I couldn't think of a good answer.
I was like swimming the baptismal tub, but I was like, you couldn't really get laps. It'd be like 2 strokes. Then
There used to be a giant meaty spider living in our baptismal, and I'll never be comfortable in it. So even though I know it's dead, I saw its dead body. I'm still not comfortable.
yeah. Also, churches have spiders, so
And rats.
and apparently rats.
And ours has stink bugs.
Yeah, we have a lot of stink bugs.
It's Western Massachusetts. Stink bugs is
That's true. They're
They're
they're,
just
they're an
everywhere.
invasive species.
They are.
Remember that. So you're not doing anyone a favor by releasing them. You have to kill them.
I drowned them in the toilet.
This is getting really dark. Anyways,
Anywho.
thank you for listening. This was episode 19 titled Home. Hopefully, home. I don't know why I said that weirdly. Hopefully, you saw into my head somehow and how weird this place is
I
called
think
my
we
brain.
just realized how as the episodes progress, we are like, Tyler's just a very conflicted individual.
Yeah, I'm confusing myself here. But anyways, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our breakdown of kind of why the church is our home, and kind of what that means to us. But yeah, we are on all types of podcast listening applications, except for Spotify. I apologize to all my Spotify listeners. But yeah, so check us out. We're on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, hit the little bell. Ding. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, like and subscribe. Yeah. We out.
We out.
Have a good one.
Okay.